Have you ever found yourself replaying a conversation in your head, wondering why it left you feeling so drained? Do you have someone in your life, a boss, a partner, a family member, whose mood can dictate your own? It feels like you're walking on eggshells, constantly trying to say the right thing to avoid a negative reaction. You spend so much energy managing their emotions that you have none left for yourself. It's a frustrating and exhausting cycle, and it can make you feel completely powerless. But what if there was one quiet thing you could do, starting today, that could change this entire dynamic? Something that requires no yelling, no dramatic confrontation, and no big arguments. It's a subtle shift in your own behavior that causes a massive shift in the power they hold over you. This isn't about playing games or becoming cold and unfeeling. It's about understanding the hidden rules of psychological power that you were never taught. It's a strategy that allows you to calmly take back control of your own emotional state. When you do this one thing, you don't just feel better. You actually watch them lose their power over you in real time. Stay with me because I'm going to show you exactly what it is and how to use it. If you clicked on this video, I'm willing to bet you know exactly how it feels to be psychologically managed by another person. It's that feeling that your choices, your words, and even your feelings are being subtly steered by someone else's expectations. They might use guilt, passive aggression, or even just their overwhelming presence to get a specific reaction from you. And for years, you may have believed that the solution was to get better at arguing, to explain yourself more clearly, or to just try harder to please them. But the real problem isn't in what you've been doing. It's in the fundamental misunderstanding of where their power actually comes from. Here is the single most important idea you need to grasp. Their power isn't in their action, it's in your reaction. That feeling of powerlessness you have is a signal that you've been giving your power away without even realizing it. But that ends today. In this video, I'm going to give you a powerful technique to reclaim that power quietly and effectively. First, we'll explore the real source of their power by understanding the psychology behind why they need your reaction so badly. Then, I'll reveal the exact technique, a simple but profound strategy that disarms controlling behavior. And finally, I'll show you exactly how to use it in real-world situations so you can walk away from this video with a tool you can apply immediately. But before we get to the technique itself, we have to understand one crucial thing about how these power dynamics actually function. So, what is the real source of a controller or manipulator's power? Psychologists have found that controlling behavior is often a learned strategy, and it only persists when it's rewarded. The reward they are seeking is your emotional reaction. Think of a controlling person like a scientist running an experiment, and you are the subject. They perform an action, a provocative comment, a guilt trip, a sudden demand, and they watch closely for the result. Will you get defensive? Will you apologize and back down? Will you get angry and start an argument? To them, any of these emotional responses are a success. Your reaction, whether it's positive or negative, tells them their strategy is working and that they have influence over your internal state. Here's a powerful analogy to make this crystal clear. Imagine the controller as a gambler at a human slot machine. Their provocative words or actions are them pulling the lever. Your emotional reaction, your justification, your anger, your apology, that is the payout. Every time you give them that emotional payout, you are teaching them to pull that same lever again and again. You are reinforcing the very behavior that is draining you. They learn that if they want to feel powerful, all they have to do is say or do X, and you will reliably produce reaction Y. This is why trying to reason with them or explain your feelings often makes things worse. You're still giving them a payout. You're just dispensing a different flavor of coin. Their power isn't in the mean-spirited comment they made. It isn't in the unreasonable demand they sent in a late-night email. Their power is in the predictability of your response. They have trained you to react in a specific way, and that predictability is the foundation of their control. Understanding this is the first major aha moment. You realize the power isn't some mystical force they possess. It is a transaction, and you have been an unwitting participant. The moment you stop providing the payout, the entire machine grinds to a halt. This isn't about blame, it's about diagnosis. It's a natural human response to react emotionally when provoked. But once you see the game for what it is, you are no longer just a player. You become the strategist. You can see the lever being pulled, understand the intention behind it, and make a conscious choice not to dispense the reward. This insight alone shifts the dynamic entirely. It moves you from a place of feeling like a victim of their behavior to an observer of their strategy. And from that position of observation, you can finally begin to use a new and far more effective tool. So what is this quiet technique that stops the slot machine from paying out? Let's get into the core of our strategy. All right, so we've established that the controller's power is fueled by your reaction. So the quiet thing you do to make them lose their power is to strategically withdraw that reaction. The name for this powerful technique is strategic indifference. Strategic indifference is the calm, deliberate withdrawal of emotional reaction to provocative or controlling behavior. This is incredibly important, so let's break down what it is and what it is not. It is not the silent treatment, which is itself a passive-aggressive form of manipulation designed to punish. It is not suppressing your emotions, pretending you don't feel anything while you're secretly fuming inside. And it is not being a doormat or letting people walk all over you. Instead, strategic indifference is an active, internal choice. It's the conscious decision to observe someone's attempt to provoke you, to see it for what it is, a bid for your emotional energy, and to choose not to engage on that emotional level. You become a calm, detached observer of their behavior, rather than a participant in their drama. You acknowledge what they said or did, but you don't take the emotional bait. Let's use a very simple example. Oh, must be nice to leave right at 5 o'clock. The baited, reactive response would be to get defensive. Well, I finished all my work. I was here early this morning. You're explaining, you're justifying, and you've just given them the emotional payout they were looking for. You've shown them that their comment landed and affected you. A response using strategic indifference is calm, minimal, and factual. Yep, have a good night. Then you turn and leave without any further emotional engagement. Do you see the difference? There's no anger, no defense, no justification. You simply refuse to participate in the emotional game they initiated. You are communicating with your calmness that their attempt to provoke you was uninteresting and ineffective. It's a quiet declaration of sovereignty over your own emotional state. This technique is so powerful because it starves the controlling dynamic of its only fuel source, your energy. You are not trying to control them. You are simply exercising complete control over yourself. You're choosing not to play. And when one person refuses to play the game, The game has to end.
This isn't about winning an argument.
It's about making the argument irrelevant. So now that you know what strategic indifference is, the next logical question is how do you actually use it in more complex, high-stakes situations? By the way, if you are finding this concept of quiet power valuable for navigating life's challenges, consider subscribing. This channel is all about sharing smart, strategic ways to build a stronger and more confident life without the drama. Join us by hitting that subscribe button. All right, enough theory. Let's get real. What does strategic indifference actually look like when the stakes are higher? Let's walk through 3 common scenarios. First, let's take the micromanaging boss. It's 9 p.m. and you get an email with an urgent but non-critical request, followed by a text 5 minutes later asking, "Did you see my email?" This is a bid for control, designed to test your availability and create a sense of constant obligation. The before reactive response is to feel a surge of anxiety, immediately reply to the email and text back, "Yes, on it now." This rewards their behavior and teaches them that you are always on call. The after response is to see the email, recognize it's not truly urgent, and make a calm decision to address it during work hours. You don't reply at all. The next morning, you respond with a simple, factual email. "Thanks, I'll have this done by noon." If they ask why you didn't respond last night, you don't justify or defend. "I handle work communications during business hours." It's calm, it's factual, and it sets a boundary without a fight. Next, let's imagine a manipulative partner. You want to go out with your friends, and they say with a sigh, "Okay, I guess I'll just stay here by myself again. It's fine." This is a classic guilt trip, designed to make you feel bad and change your plans. The reactive response is to feel guilty, cancel your plans, or spend the whole night defending your choice and reassuring them. This gives them the payout. They successfully controlled your emotions and your behavior. The strategic indifference response is to acknowledge their feeling without taking responsibility for it. "I can hear that you're disappointed. I'm going to head out now, and I'm looking forward to seeing you when I get back." You are not cold, you are not mean, you are simply refusing to accept the guilt they are trying to hand you. You are validating their emotion as theirs, not as a problem for you to solve. Finally, the overbearing family member who gives unsolicited advice. At a family gathering, they say, "You know, if you really want to get that promotion, you should be dressing more professionally." This is a thinly veiled criticism designed to assert superiority. The reactive response is to get defensive, saying, "My clothes are professional," or to list all the reasons their advice is wrong. This opens the door to a long, draining argument. Remember this key insight. You don't win by out-arguing them. You win by making the argument boring. The strategic indifference response is to give a non-committal, boring reply. "Thanks for the suggestion," or "That's an interesting thought," and then immediately change the subject. "Have you tried the dip? It's amazing." You're not agreeing, you're not fighting, you're simply giving their provocative statement nowhere to go. You've made it a dead end. In all these cases, you are quietly taking back your power. But what happens when they don't give up? What if they notice the game has changed and they try even harder? This is a critical phase you must be prepared for. For those of you thinking, "This would never work, the person I know would just get worse," you are absolutely right. At first, they probably will. And this predictable escalation is so common that psychologists have a name for it, an extinction burst. Imagine you're at an elevator and you press the call button.
Nothing happens. What do you do?
You press it again, maybe harder and faster. You might hold it down for a few seconds. You escalate your efforts before you finally accept that the button is broken, and you give up, deciding to take the stairs. The extinction burst is that period of frantic, escalated button pushing. When a manipulator or controller pulls their usual lever, like sending a guilt-tripping text, and for the first time they don't get the usual payout of your anxious reply, they don't just give up. They will pull the lever harder. They might send another, more aggressive text. They might call you. They might escalate their passive aggression into outright accusations. This is the point where most people panic and give in, which unfortunately teaches the controller that all they need to do is throw a bigger tantrum to get what they want.
But if you understand the extinction burst, you can see this escalation for what it really is.
It is the single greatest sign that strategic indifference is working. It is the sound of their old strategy failing. It is the death rattle of their power over you. Your job during an extinction burst is to hold steady. You continue to respond with calm, minimal, factual statements, or not at all. By staying consistent, you are teaching them a new, irreversible lesson. The slot machine is broken. It will no longer pay out no matter how hard they pull the lever. Once they truly learn this, a profound shift occurs. They are left with only two choices. They can disengage and go seek a payout from someone else, or they are forced to change their entire communication strategy with you. They have to start communicating more directly and respectfully, because the old manipulative tactics have become completely ineffective. Either way, you have won. They have lost their quiet control over your emotional state. That is what watching them lose their power really looks like. It's not a dramatic movie scene. It's the slow, quiet realization on their part that the game has changed for good. Okay, that was a lot of information, and I want to make this incredibly simple for you to apply in the heat of the moment. When you feel that familiar tug of a controlling behavior, remember this three-step process. First, step one is to observe. Don't just react on instinct. Mentally, take a step back and identify what is happening. This is a bid for my emotional reaction. This is a guilt trip. This is a passive-aggressive jab. Labeling the behavior detaches you from it and puts you in the position of a strategist. Second, step two is to pause. This is the most critical step. Before you speak, before you type, take one conscious breath. This tiny gap between their action and your response is where you take your power back. It's the space where you interrupt your old conditioned reaction and choose a new strategic one. Third, step three is to respond minimally and factually. Your goal is to be as boring as possible to the part of them that craves drama. A short, factual answer. No. And most importantly, remember what not to do. As you do this, remember to never jade. JADE is an acronym that stands for justify, argue, defend, or explain. Controllers thrive when you do these things. When you justify your actions, you are handing them the power to judge you. When you argue, you are investing your energy directly into their frame. When you defend yourself, you are acting as if their accusation has merit. And when you explain, you are often oversharing information they can use against you later. So, observe their move, pause to reclaim your power,
and respond minimally without jading.
This simple framework, practiced over time, will become your new default. So we've covered the psychology, the technique, and the practical steps. And this all comes down to one simple, empowering idea. Strategic indifference isn't about becoming a cold or uncaring person.
It is the exact opposite.
It's about caring so much about your own peace of mind that you refuse to let it be hijacked by someone else's need for control. It's about controlling yourself, not them. That feeling of being controlled that we talked about at the start, the walking on eggshells, the constant exhaustion, it's not a life sentence.
It's a signal.
It's a sign that you've been giving your power away by reacting on autopilot. Now you know how to switch off that autopilot and take the controls yourself. This is a skill, and like any skill, it takes practice. You won't be perfect at first, but every time you choose to pause and not give the emotional payout, you are strengthening a new muscle. You are rewiring your own brain and retraining the people around you on how to treat you. Remember this final thought. True power isn't loud, it's quiet. It's the calm realization that you are in control of the only person you ever need to be, yourself. I hope this strategy empowers you to create more peace and strength in your life. If you want more quiet strategies for building a stronger, more confident life, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world. And as a next step, if you're ready to get even better at spotting these behaviors before they affect you, I highly recommend you watch this video right here on the 3 signs someone is a covert manipulator. Thank you for investing your time with me today. Stay strong.